San Francisco luxury real estate is entering an entirely new era of wealth. Over the past few years alone, we've seen two of the largest residential sales in San Francisco history happening right here in Pacific Heights. One selling for $70 million and another one recently sold for $54 million. And that's because today the Bay Area has become one of the most concentrated centers of wealth in the world, fueled by technology, venture capital, and the explosive rise of AI. New millionaires and billionaires are being created at an extraordinary pace, and they're competing for some of the most exclusive real estate in San Francisco. In the past year alone, roughly 140 homes sold for over $5 million, compared to around 90 homes just a few years ago. But what really makes San Francisco different from other luxury markets is that the city's wealth story didn't begin in Silicon Valley. Long before tech founders and AI billionaires arrived, San Francisco was built by railroad tycoons, banking families, and generations of old money wealth. That shaped the city into what it is today. And many of these families, along the side of the new generation ultra-high net worth buyers, are still buying concentrated in a handful of incredibly prestigious neighborhoods. These neighborhoods represent some of the most valuable and iconic real estate in the country. I'm Lisa Vukovic, a local real estate agent in San Francisco, and in this video, I'm taking you inside the San Francisco neighborhoods where old money, tech wealth, and luxury living collide. We'll talk about the history, the architecture, and the lifestyle of what it's like to actually live in some of the most exclusive neighborhoods in San Francisco. So let's start where San Francisco old money really began, Nob Hill. Late 1800s, the powerful railroad tycoons who helped shape the American West built enormous mansions high above the city in what became San Francisco's most elite residential enclave. The neighborhood became known as Nob Hill because of the wealthy and influential men who lived there. The term nob was slang for someone of high social status or prominence, and it became closely associated with the Big Four railroad barons, who built their lavish estates atop this hill, overlooking the bay and the growing city and financial district below. At the time, these mansions represented unimaginable wealth and power. But in 1906, the devastating earthquake and fires destroyed nearly all of them, forever changing the landscape of Nob Hill. Almost everything was lost. The one major mansion that survived was the iconic Flood Mansion, which still stands today and now operates as one of the most exclusive private clubs in San Francisco, a rare surviving piece of the city's original Gilded Age history. And what I find so fascinating about Nob Hill is that even after this destruction, the neighborhood never lost its identity as a symbol of elegance, resilience, and influence. Instead, it reinvented itself. Many of the iconic landmarks that define Nob Hill today from that rebuilding era include Grace Cathedral, the Fairmont Hotel, the Mark Hopkins, Huntington Hotel, and the Stanford Court. And together they created this incredibly timeless, old-world atmosphere that still feels very distinct from the rest of San Francisco. Living in Nob Hill today feels refined, historic, and deeply connected to the city's past, but also incredibly livable. You have a beautiful mix of luxury condos, historic co-ops, classic Edwardian buildings, and full-service residences with concierge services, valet parking, rooftop terraces, and panoramic views stretching from the Bay Bridge, Coit Tower, downtown, and the Bay. And unlike some of San Francisco's quieter luxury enclaves, Nob Hill places you right in the middle of the city's energy. You're minutes from Jackson Square, North Beach, Union Square, downtown, and the iconic hotels and private clubs, with incredible restaurants, cocktail bars, and some of the best cultural landmarks in San Francisco. For the affluent buyers today, especially those looking for a sophisticated city lifestyle with history, convenience, security, and a lock-and-leave ease, Nob Hill continues to be one of the most desirable luxury neighborhoods in San Francisco. After the 1906 earthquake devastated Nob Hill, and destroyed many of the city's grandest mansions, San Francisco's wealthiest families began moving west in search of space, views, and a fresh start. And that's when Pacific Heights truly became the new center of power and prestige in San Francisco. Many of the wealthy elite families who once dominated Nob Hill rebuilt their estates here overlooking the bay. And to this day, Pacific Heights remains one of the most prestigious residential neighborhoods in San Francisco. What makes Pacific Heights so special is the combination of scale, architecture, history, and lifestyle. The homes here are extraordinary. Grand mansions, elegant Edwardians, colonial revival estates, historic townhomes with sweeping staircases, ornate detailing, and some of the most iconic views in San Francisco. And unlike newer luxury markets that can sometimes feel flashy or overly modern, Pacific Heights has a quiet confidence to it. The wealth here feels generational. There's a reason why so many prominent families, venture capitalists, tech founders, and business leaders continue to gravitate towards this neighborhood more than a century later. The most famous stretch of Pacific Heights is often referred to as Billionaires Row or Gold Coast, a series of ultra-prime blocks along Broadway and Vallejo, known for having some of the most expensive and architecturally significant homes in San Francisco. This is where many of the city record-breaking sales happen. Massive historic mansions with unobstructed views of the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, and the Bay. Some of these estates sit on incredibly rare, oversized lots, something almost unheard of in San Francisco. And many of these have been carefully preserved or restored over the generation. And what's fascinating is the mix of old and new wealth that exists here today. You still have legacy San Francisco families who have owned homes for decades along the side with some of the biggest names in tech, venture capital, and finance. But despite the enormous wealth concentrated here, Pacific Heights still feels surprisingly residential and livable. That's part of the appeal. You're walking distance to Alta Plaza Park, Fillmore Street, Sacramento Street, boutique shopping, private schools, Michelin star restaurants, and some of the most beautiful tree-lined streets in the city. There's an incredible balance between elegance and everyday livability. People here walk their dogs in the morning, grab coffee on Fillmore Street, meet friends at the neighborhood cafes, and then return home to some of the most valuable real estate on the West Coast. And architecturally, Pacific Heights is one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in San Francisco. Almost every block feels cinematic. You have perfectly preserved historic facades, lush landscaping, panoramic bay views, and the streets that feel more like a part of Europe or Upper East Side than what most people imagine when they think of California. Living in Pacific Heights today is more than just luxury real estate. It's about the legacy, privacy, lifestyle, and being part of one of the most historically significant neighborhoods in San Francisco. Now, if Pacific Heights represents classic San Francisco prestige, Presidio Terrace represents something even more rare: privacy. Tucked quietly between Presidio Heights and the Lake District and the Presidio itself, Presidio Terrace is one of the most exclusive and hidden luxury enclaves in all of San Francisco. Tucked quietly between Presidio Heights and the Lake District and the Presidio itself, Presidio Terrace is one of the most exclusive and hidden luxury enclaves in all of San Francisco. And unless you know it's there, you could easily drive right past it without realizing what's behind the gates. What makes Presidio Terrace so fascinating is that it was incredibly ahead of its time. Developed around 1905, it became San Francisco's very first residence park, a master-planned luxury community designed to feel elegant, private, and residential at a time when most of the city was still developing rapidly around it. But what truly sets Presidio Terrace apart wasn't just the architecture or exclusivity, it was the infrastructure. At a time when most of San Francisco still relied heavily on horse-drawn carriages and cable cars, Presidio Terrace was already being designed for the future. The neighborhood featured underground utilities, electric street lamps, landscape curved roads, and streets intentionally planned for automobiles in mind. That was something almost unheard of at the time. And even today, more than a century later, it still feels incredibly intentional. The neighborhood is made up of just 36 large estate-sized lots, arranged around a single private oval-shaped cul-de-sac behind gated entrances. That layout creates an extraordinary sense of privacy and security, and it's almost impossible to find in San Francisco today. There's no through traffic, no commercial activity, no crowds, just beautifully preserved historic homes tucked behind mature landscaping on one of the quietest streets in the entire city. And architecturally, it's stunning. You'll find everything from Grand Beau Art mansions, Mediterranean villas, to Tudor estates, colonial revival homes, and impeccably restored historic residences. Every home feels distinctive, collected over time, and layered with history and character. And because the lots here are significantly larger than what you typically find in San Francisco, many of the homes feel like private estates, more than a traditional city property. That combination with limited inventory, architectural significance, and privacy is exactly why demand here has remained so strong for generations. Over the years, Presidio Terrace has been home to some of San Francisco's most influential political figures, financiers, and legacy families, including Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, and the former mayor, Joseph Alito. But despite the prestige, what I think people love the most about Presidio Terrace is actually the lifestyle. Your moments from the Presidio, Mountain Lake Park, Sacramento Street shopping and dining, Laurel Village, Clement Street, and some of the city's best private schools and clubs. So while the neighborhood feels incredibly secluded, you're still connected to some of the very best parts of San Francisco living. And that balance is rare. It's quiet luxury in a true sense, not flashy, not performative, just deeply established San Francisco wealth, privacy, and timeless elegance. And if you want to see what life inside Presidio Terrace actually looks like, definitely check out some of my luxury property tours where I take you inside some of these incredible homes in Presidio Terrace. Now, while Pacific Heights may be the neighborhood most people immediately associate with San Francisco wealth, Russian Hill has always attracted a different kind of luxury buyer. It's a little bit more understated, a little more artistic, a little bit more old school San Francisco. And for many people, that's exactly the appeal. Russian Hill combines some of the most spectacular views in the city with historic architecture, walkability, and a level of charm that feels almost impossible to recreate today. But within Russian Hill, there are actually two exclusive pockets where you will find the most prestigious homes in the neighborhood. The first is the Russian Hill Vallejo Street Crest Historic District. This is one of the most architecturally significant residential enclaves in San Francisco and one of the city's best-kept luxury secrets. Tucked along the crest of the hill overlooking the bay, this 4-acre historic district was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1988, and it's known for its beautifully preserved homes dating roughly from 1875 through the mid-1900s. And what makes this area so remarkable is that many of these homes actually survived the 1906 earthquake and fires, something incredibly rare in San Francisco. Architecturally, the neighborhood is stunning. You'll find classic examples of First Bay Area traditional style homes that blend natural materials, craftsmanship, and a deep connection to the surrounding landscape. And because of this deep topography, retaining walls, terrace gardens, stairways, and lush landscaping, the entire area feels incredibly intimate and almost European in character. There's a quiet, park-like atmosphere to it. Cars move slowly, people walk the staircases, the streets curve organically around the hillside. It feels less like a major city and more like a hidden residential village floating above the bay. And then there's the second pocket of Russian Hill, Francisco Street between Hyde and Leavenworth. This block is often considered Russian Hill's own version of Billionaires Row. And honestly, some of these homes here are among the most extraordinary in all of San Francisco. You have massive historic residences perched dramatically above the waterfront with sweeping views of the Bay, Alcatraz, Aquatic Park, the Golden Gate Bridge, Coit Tower, and the Bay Bridge. The scale of some of these homes is almost unheard of in San Francisco. Oversized lots, grand architecture, private gardens, panoramic terraces, and because the inventory on this block is incredibly limited, homes here rarely trade publicly. And when they do, they command enormous prices and intense interest from affluent buyers looking for trophy properties with history and views. But beyond the architecture and prestige, what makes Russian Hill so desirable today is the lifestyle. Your moments from North Beach, Hyde Street, Polk Street, the waterfront, and some of the city's best restaurants, cafes, wine bars, and boutique shops. You can walk to dinner, walk to coffee, walk to the bay, and yet somehow these residential pockets still feel incredibly quiet and insulated from the energy from the city below. That contrast is what makes Russian Hill so special. It offers luxury without feeling overwhelmingly formal, historic but vibrant, elegant but livable. And for buyers who want San Francisco character, architecture, walkability, and iconic views all in one neighborhood, Russian Hill remains one of the most coveted places to live in the city. Now, if Pacific Heights feels elegant and prestigious, Seacliff feels deeply private and cinematic. Seacliff sits along the northwestern edge of San Francisco, overlooking the Pacific Ocean and the Golden Gate Bridge. And the views here are honestly some of the most spectacular in the entire city. Seacliff is another historic residence park community with large detached homes, true front yards, mature landscaping, and a very residential character. There's no commercial corridors running through the neighborhood, no busy retail streets, no heavy foot traffic. It's quiet, secluded, and incredibly peaceful. And that's exactly why so many high-profile buyers are drawn to it. The homes here range from historic estates to dramatic contemporary properties, perched along the cliffs overlooking the ocean. Many have sweeping Golden Gate Bridge views that almost feel unreal in person. Living in Seacliff feels less urban San Francisco and more like a private coastal enclave. It's one of the few places in the city where you can genuinely forget you're in a major metropolitan area. And finally, Presidio Heights. To me, this is one of the most refined and understated luxury neighborhoods in San Francisco. It shares many of the same benefits as Pacific Heights: beautiful architecture, proximity to Sacramento Street, access to the Presidio, but it feels quieter, more residential, and even more exclusive. Homes here rarely come on the market, and when they do, they move quickly. There's a timeless elegance about Presidio Heights that affluent buyers are constantly searching for. The streets are peaceful, the homes are stunning, and the neighborhood feels incredibly established. You'll find beautiful Tudor homes, Mediterranean estates, classic Edwardians, and impeccably restored historic properties throughout the area. And because inventory is so limited, demand remains extremely strong. For many buyers relocating to San Francisco, especially from places like New York, Los Angeles, Miami, or London, Presidio Heights feels like the perfect balance of luxury, privacy, beauty, and livability. So, those are some of the neighborhoods where old money and increasingly new tech wealth continues to concentrate in San Francisco today. And what makes these neighborhoods so fascinating is that each one of them offers a completely different version of what luxury living looks like. Some are quiet and private, some are historic and grand, others feel vibrant, walkable, and deeply connected to the energy of the city. But all of them represent some of the most desirable real estate in San Francisco. If you're considering moving to San Francisco, buying luxury real estate here, or just want help understanding which neighborhood might be the best fit for you, feel free to reach out. I work with buyers, sellers, and relocation clients throughout San Francisco, and I would love to be a resource for you. And if you enjoy these videos about San Francisco neighborhoods, luxury real estate, architecture, lifestyle, and market trends, make sure to subscribe because I post new videos every week.